What are we going to talk about today? Recently, maybe you've heard or you've seen pictures about these people. Who can tell me who this is? Does anybody know? Yes, Bourdain. It's strange. These celebrities had everything. Let's take this man, okay? Just as an example. Many would consider him quite handsome. Tall, he was very tall. On his show, he was always really tall. I think he was even taller than President Obama, okay? And who was on his show. Okay, that's how famous this guy was. Did you know that President Obama, when he was in office, he actually called him and asked to be on his show? Imagine that. He's a world famous author, world famous celebrity chef, and he had not just one, but numerous TV shows where he was the host and he was the star. He won Emmys, he won awards. And talking about himself, he said, I travel the world, doing whatever I want in every cool place I've ever dreamed of, and you pay the bill. How's that? Isn't that an existence? Wouldn't you love it if someone paid you to travel the world, go any place you want to go and eat all the food you want, and pay you, and you will be rich and famous? Pretty good life. But did it make him happy?
No.
No. Did it satisfy his loneliness? And his need for intimacy, and his need for connectedness, and his need for love? No. He went through life lonely. He went through life bitter. He went through life depressed. And as gifted as he was, and as famous as he was, and so many people envied him. In fact, he had a co-worker that every time she saw him, she would say, Tony, I'm coming back in my next life as Anthony Bourdain. Okay? She would say that. He had an enviable life. But he was so depressed that he hung himself with his bathrobe in his hotel room in France. Tragic. Tragic, isn't it? Maybe you don't know him, maybe you know her. This lady designed handbags that were the envy of movie stars. She was a fashion designer of the most incredible success. And the rich and the famous and the celebrities all wanted to be seen and to be on camera with her handbags. She was a smart lady. Not just talented, smart. How smart? To the tune of $200 million. That's how smart. She created an empire worth $200 million. You think she would be happy? Little girls, right? They grow up dreaming to be fashion designers. Isn't this a dream job? But no. Did it make her happy? No. She too hung herself. You don't often hear of women killing themselves through hanging. It's so violent. It's so angry. But you say, oh, these are exceptions. These are clearly exceptions. No. The statistics tell us that suicide is rapidly on the rise in our country. Every day in the United States, 123 people die of suicide. It is the 10th leading cause of death. 45,000 people in our country alone, in America alone, commit suicide every single year. Something is wrong. And the ironic thing is that these people are not the poor. These people are not the destitute. These people are the upper class. You never hear of someone trying to survive killing themselves. They're busy trying to survive, right? They're busy trying to put food on the table. They're busy trying to take care of the kids. Who are the people that are killing themselves? The privileged, the upper class, the people who have it all, the people who the rest of us look at and say, if only I lived in that neighborhood. My wonderful wife took a class in Berkeley when she was an undergrad. And her psychology teacher told her that a certain neighborhood in the Bay Area, in the East Bay, where all the rich go, all the CEOs go, all of the ex-football players go, that was the neighborhood that had the highest amount of suicide and depression. Isn't that crazy? The people who make the money, the people who are famous, the people who are powerful, the people who can have it all, they are the ones with mental depression. Is it possible, given enough resources, to truly find satisfaction in this life? Well, let's just go right to the top, shall we? Let's go right to the top. King Solomon was a man who truly had it all. You talk about wealth. During his reign, it is said that silver was nothing. Everything he touched was made of gold. Everything he put his fingers on was gold. Silver was as common as rocks. Precious stones was nothing during his reign. He had wealth. He had power. He had absolute power. You know, I don't have absolute power. I have to report to the board. I got a CFO. I got a CEO, okay? You don't have complete power. You got to report to your boss, or you got to make your kids happy, or you got to make your parents happy, right? Everybody's got to make someone happy. This was a man who had to make no one happy except himself. He was king. If he said, "I don't like your face," he would have it removed. He had all the wealth. He had all servants and musicians and entertainers, and he had harems. He had throngs of beautiful women that he could call his own. He had it all. He could do anything he wanted, and he was known as the wisest man who ever lived. Can you imagine that? Rulers, people from all over the world came to him to seek his knowledge. He had it all. And what did he find out? Let me give you the Cliff Note version of the entire book of Ecclesiastes, okay? The entire book of Ecclesiastes is a great book. I don't mean to diminish it. Please study it. Take your time, read every word of it. We don't have time, aren't you glad? We don't have time to go over it today, okay? Let me summarize the whole book right here. Life itself is completely meaningless without God. That's what the wisest man, the richest man, the most powerful man in his world discovered. Wisdom is meaningless. Pleasures are meaningless. Work even is meaningless. Earthly social justice. You say, "Oh, well, okay, I'll stand for causes. I'll protest. I'll carry signs. That'll make my life meaningful." No, it's meaningless. Wealth is meaningless. Let's take a look at a couple of these. Next couple of weeks, we're going to look at this. He said, well, he didn't say this. A well-known songwriter said, "All we are is dust in the wind." He said all of life is like chasing after the wind. Have you ever tried to catch the wind? Have you ever tried to catch the wind? Oh, I love the smell of a rainy day. Don't you love that? After the rain falls, everything's so fresh and clean, and it smells so nice. Can you capture the smell of a rainy day? Can you open up a jar and collect it? Can you get a bag, a Ziploc bag, and collect that smell and bring it? And you can't. You can't catch the wind. The wind goes here and there, and it does as it pleases, and you can't catch it. And he said, likewise, you know what? I've done it all. I've done it all. And I have to say, without God, everything on earth is meaningless. For example, he says this, what do people gain from all their labor? Surely you say, well, Solomon, you can't be right. Work is noble, work is great, work is God-given. Yes, but he says, what do people gain from all their labors, at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. What is he saying? You know, you can work as hard as you want. Mount Everest won't even know you're there. You can try as hard as you want. The Pacific Ocean is just going to be there. You can't change a thing. Not really. Not when you look at the big scheme of things. Can a person really make a difference? Solomon says, no, not really. Generations can come, generations can go. You know what? The earth stays the same. Mount Everest is still there. The Pacific Ocean is still there. The Grand Canyon is still there. You haven't really changed anything significant. Huh? Secondly, you know what he says? You think you've done something new? It's all been done before. Solomon says, is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? No. It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. And it'll come back again. He says young people don't remember history. And they repeat it. Every generation of young people think they're the new thing. But it's the same old stuff, just rehashed, repackaged. Same old thing. Teenage angst is teenage angst. Rebellion is rebellion. Thinking that the older generation is old-fashioned. Every generation thought that, right? Same old thing. Solomon says, you know what? You think you have something new. Guess again. Friends, it's just rehash. Been there, done that. Right? You guys know that expression. Sad. Eventually all your accomplishments will be forgotten. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? But Solomon had the wisdom to know. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. Oh, man. You know, one of the most heartbreaking things about being a young father, I'm not young per se, but I'm a young father because I've got young kids. You know what the most terrible thing? I change diapers. I don't change too many diapers now because my wife is home. But you know, I changed a lot of diapers. I dealt with puke. I brought the kids to their first chocolate chip cookie, their first donut. I took my kids, you know, on all these firsts and all these wonderful things that mean so much to me. You know what? Are my kids going to remember anything that happened before the age of 3? Huh? No, all of you experienced moms and dads and aunties and uncles and grandparents. No, right? I remember all night long singing to my son because he was crying all night and he couldn't get to sleep unless I sang to him. Will he remember that? No. My wife reminds me, you know, Tim, they're not going to remember that. Isn't that sad? Even, I'm not talking about my grandchildren. I'm not talking about great-grandchildren. I'm talking about just my own kids. Are they going to remember the sacrifices and the heartache and the sleepless nights? And no! And so Solomon says, how much more when you're talking about generations? A couple of 100 years from now, is anyone going to remember? Probably not. Okay. All right. How about wisdom? You got to admit, wisdom is worth pursuing with your life. Wisdom if you're educated, wisdom if you're smart, wisdom if you have tons of knowledge, that's meaningful. Solomon says, I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more. How many of us can make that claim? How many of us can make that claim? Not me, no way. I couldn't even get through high school calculus, okay? Wisdom, Solomon says, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. The Bible tells us that wisdom was granted to Solomon unlike any other human being, except maybe for Jesus Christ himself. The Bible tells us that Solomon was the wisest man who ever lived. He must have been a proponent of wisdom, right? No. I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. And you know what I learned, people? I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. For with wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. Isn't it true? Stop and think about it. Everybody, think about this for a moment. The more you know about world events, does it make you more positive or more negative? The more you know about crime, the rapes and the murders and the robberies and the killings, and the more you have knowledge of this, does it make you happier or sadder? You see? The more you know what a delicate balance the earth is. And if the earth was one sheet of paper thickness, one sheet of paper thickness closer to the sun, we would all die. And if it was one piece of paper closer away from the sun, we would all freeze to death. And all of the asteroids that surround the earth. And how easy would it be to have a virus that went out of control? If you were really, really smart and you knew all these things, you know what you would say? You would say what? Ignorance is bliss. I'd rather not know. Don't tell me. Right? And Solomon discovered that. You know, the more knowledge you have, the more depressed you get. The more knowledge you have, the more grief you have. Hey, I'd rather be dumb and happy, right? Okay. Work is meaningless, fine. Wisdom is meaningless, sure. Who wants to study all the time? Have a pleasure. That's the American way, right? Pleasure, narcissism, hedonism. Let's eat and let's drink and let's be merry and let's party, and who cares about tomorrow? We're all going to get slammed by an asteroid anyway and die. You know what? Let's just party on. Okay? I said to myself, he actually did this. You know, we snicker. We say, oh no, that won't work. Solomon tried it. Solomon tried it. I said to myself, come. I will test you with pleasure. Whoa, what a good experience, right? What a good experiment. All right, let's test us with pleasure. All right. Woo-hoo. Sign me up for that, right? To find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. How about laughter? Just having a good time, laughing, kicking back, telling jokes, merriment. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine. And Solomon could afford the best wine. We're not talking cheap stuff that you drink out of a paper bag, okay? We talk about the best stuff you drink with fine crystal. I tested myself with merriment and laughter and getting drunk and wine, embracing, cheering myself with wine, embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. Yeah? I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees. Wow. Isn't that awesome? Here's a picture of one of the ancient wonders of the world. A mighty palace, a mighty castle. But not just a castle. It had trees and plants and fruit from all over the known world. And he put them on top of buildings. Isn't that awesome? He had an irrigation system that would actually go up to the top, and they have cascading waterfalls over the balconies. Wow, what a splendid palace. Isn't that awesome? He could do anything he wanted. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were born in my house. I also obtained more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers and a harem as well, the delights of a man's heart. I'm sorry, women. Men are pigs. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. Now, honestly, who among us has ever had that much wealth that we pleasured ourselves with anything our eyes desired? Honestly, no one. But Solomon did. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor. And he had great accomplishments. And you know what was the reward of all my toil? When I surveyed all that my hands had done, and all that I toiled so hard to achieve, everything was vanity, meaningless, emptiness, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Solomon, the wisest, most powerful, most wealthy man who ever lived, said, you know what? Good times are meaningless. Wine is meaningless. Accomplishments are meaningless. Sex is meaningless. Even ambition and hard work is meaningless. What's the point of it all? The point is simply this: fear God and keep His commandments. You say, oh, no, that sounds so religious, Tim. That sounds so religious. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I believe that we can be happy without God. Okay, you know what? Who believed in that? Ernest Hemingway believed in that. Ernest Hemingway said all thinking men are atheists. Wow, what an arrogant statement. He's a champion of atheists, or is he? He said if you're thinking, if you're intellectual, if you have any smarts at all, you'll be an atheist. Is that true? He came from a family of atheists. What was his life philosophy? His life philosophy was that sooner or later the world will kill you or break you. It will destroy you. And his atheism followed him to its logical end, which was what? Suicide. He put a gun into his mouth, blew out his brains. You think, oh, that's just Hemingway. He was a writer. Those artists are always unstable. You know what? 7 people in his family of atheists also killed themselves. Listen, if you and I reject God, there is no longer any hope for humanity. There is no Jesus, no hope. No Jesus, no hope. Poor Hemingway, poor Bourdain, poor Kate Spade. They had accomplishment, they had success, they had money, they had praise, they had honors, they had awards, but they had no peace, no joy, no hope. They had everything the world could give them, but without Jesus, there was nothing left for them but to end it all. And it's true. Solomon found out. Do we accept that? In the end, King Solomon's conclusion was fear God, keep His commandments, find joy in the work and the life that God gives you. In other words, trust and obey. For there's no other way to be happy and satisfied in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Will you close your eyes at this moment? And those of you who are listening online, don't turn off your computer just yet. Listen, I believe God is speaking to you. God is speaking to you. And He wants you to respond. He doesn't want you just to hear and let it go. He wants us to respond. And He has a choice for you. Don't learn the hard way. Take the wisdom of King Solomon and make it your own. Save yourself a lot of grief. Would you surrender your life to Jesus? Would you surrender your life? Maybe you've been chasing wealth. Maybe you've been chasing popularity. Maybe you've been chasing people pleasing. Maybe you've been chasing, I don't know, maybe, whatever it is. But it's not worth it. You can't find, that thing that you are chasing is chasing after wind, and you will never find satisfaction even if you caught it, because there would always be something more. Would you surrender it right now, right here, right now? Even if you're in front of your computer, say this prayer. God will hear you. God, I surrender all. I pledge my life to trust and obey you. I receive Jesus Christ as my Lord and my Savior and my life leader, and I want to follow Him. Give me the satisfaction I so desire. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for being with us at Park Vista Christian Church. Come back next week. Next week, we will have the conclusion of the book of Ecclesiastes.